so much on social media. So,
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Renee Arnold. I'd like to welcome you to a Senior Living Smart Partner webinar. Today we have panelist discussion hosted by Dr. Jim Harris. Jim is an award-winning business author, consultant, and international speaker. As director of Payday HR's 24/7 Institute, he guides the overall leadership and staff development services for Payday clients nationwide. He has also authored 11 books, including Management 24/7, 6 Critical Skills That Every Manager Must Master, and Culture 24/7, 4 Keys to Growing a Great Culture, both available at Payday's HR website. Please feel free during the webinar to send your questions or comments, and also feel free to tweet questions or comment at GetSLSmart, #SmartWebinar. Without further delay, I'll turn the webinar over to Dr. Jim Harris, who will talk about how to increase profit through employee safety. Jim, let me turn the screen over to you now.
Renee, thank you very much. We are absolutely thrilled to be here with you today. We are excited about sharing this particular webinar because in our work at Payday HR, we have really begun to see tremendous payoffs for those companies that actually embrace the principles that you are going to hear today. And I would like to introduce our 2 safety experts, the backbone of our safety team, that's going to share with us what they do every single day to help our clients profit from employee safety. David Moss is a seasoned, and I say seasoned, I don't want to tease Dave that he's about my same age, but he is a seasoned professional, over 30 years in the workplace safety business. He has been involved from the front line to the Fortune 500 of companies over his career, and with all the prestigious awards that he's received, one of them that we're most proud of, Dave, is that he is recognized as an American Society safety engineer, and he leads our efforts along with Justin Seckinger. Justin is our safety manager. Justin has a BS in building construction, and he has, I don't know how many, Justin, association certifications in safety and administration and training, and an auditor with the National Association of Safety Professionals. You 2 guys are good. I just welcome you to today's webinar.
It's great to be here, Dr. Jim.
Yeah, Jim, great to be here.
I appreciate it. Let's get into the core of our program now. Here's what we're going to do in today's webinar. We have about 30 to 35 minutes of core content we'd like to share. Then we're going to open up for Q&A at the end of today's program. So once again, please text in your questions, and we'd like to have Dave and Justin answer them at the end of the program. Then we have a very special announcement, 2 very special offers. And so as we move forward in this program, here's what we're going to do. The first thing we'd like to do is give you a snapshot of a real live case study with an assisted living community. We're then going to share with you the 5 critical steps. This is going to be the backbone of today's webinar. We will walk you through the exact same steps we use at Payday as we work with assisted living communities all across the country. We'll offer you this special offer just for this webinar audience, and then we'll have the Q&A session. So the first thing we'd like to do is this. We'd like to get you thinking. Think about this. How many beds would you need to fill for 1 year in one of your facilities, one of your communities? How many beds would you need to fill for 1 year to offset the cost of just 1 employee strain injury? Is it 2, 4 beds, 6, or 8? Now think about that. In just a few minutes after the case study, we're going to come back and give you the right answer. So how many beds would it take? Now, our case study. Dave is going to lead us through a case study of CRL, Senior Living Communities. They are communities of 27 individual communities across 2 states. And Dave, would you just walk us through what you and Justin did and some of the results you received by implementing these 5 steps with CRL?
Sure, Jim. The first off, we look at the total claims. This is the results that we had, the savings that we saw working with this particular client. As you can see, we had savings in your area that you know the most, and that is patient handling or resident handling. That's where you probably experience most of your losses. And you can see the savings that we had there. We had a particular problem here in Slips and Falls, and you can see the savings that we experienced here. And then strain injuries, and I'm talking about like laundry facilities. This is the kind of strain that we broke out here. And then, of course, caught in between. So these are the main total claims that we had by cause. Next slide, Jim. Now we're looking at the total claims by policy period. You know, any safety professional looking at this is always happy because here we cut the total number in half. And anytime we have that kind of result, we're always pleased. Next, we want to look at the total claims by cost. Because there's a variation, you don't have the same one half that we see in the others. You have a variation in cost and claims, but we did have a significant savings when we look at the total claims by cost. And then, of course, our overall results here. We're looking at the workers' compensation savings, and of course, underwriting was able to use some total administrative savings. So we came up with a very overall significant cost for this particular client.
Well, Dave, one of the things that just jumps out at these, and this is not an attempt to brag, it's really just saying by using these steps, these are the kinds of results potentially for almost any assisted living community. This is just, and these were just over less than a 1-year period, wasn't it?
That is correct. About 6 months, about half a year.
So this was the first 6 months savings.
Right.
And so that's some pretty significant savings. So we just want to give you a snapshot of the potential of implementing these 5 steps. Now let's get back to our question. Justin, how many beds would you need to fill for 1 year to offset the cost of one employee strain injury? What is the right answer?
Well, the right answer is actually 6 beds. Seems like a big number. The way we came up with this is here at Payday HR, you know, we conducted our own internal analysis of what the average cost per bed is in the assisted living facility, and then we came up with the average cost per injury. And then we used the 2 numbers to calculate, you know, how many beds it would take to offset that cost. A quick example, you know, the numbers that we use, we looked at the average back strain is about $35,000 in direct cost. Indirect costs, that would result in about $38,000. So you're looking at over $70,000 in direct and indirect costs. With your company having about a 3% profit margin, you would need over $220,000 in sales to cover the cost of that one injury. So that's where we came up with the 6 beds.
You know, when you do the math, it's really impressive. I mean, it's almost depressing when you hear the math that one simple strain can be so costly to try to cover in terms of cash flow and profit.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, it's really, really a lot. So let's move on. Let's go ahead and now introduce what the 5 critical steps are. And if you did receive the handout in the pre-mailing, you can follow along with the handout that you can fill in the blanks as we go. The first critical step that we suggest any of you implement in your assisted living communities to help profit from employee safety is know your loss history. Justin, tell us what that really means.
Well, you want to look at your losses, and the way that you can do this is getting your loss runs from your insurance carriers. But you know, you want to look at your loss history. So, and then you want to analyze your losses, categorize your losses, and implement procedures.
Can you give us some examples of what that might look like?
Well, okay, so we're going to look at analyzing your losses. You know, currently we're working with another assisted living facility. In the next few slides is going to be kind of how we're implementing the safety program for them.
So this is a live case study in process. Is that correct?
Correct. This is a live case study, and these are also examples and solutions that you can use in your facility to implement a safety program. So when we analyze the losses, we look at the losses by year, and we look at the losses by cost, by a dollar amount. So as you can see in the slides, you know, the facility that we're working with, they had 10 claims last year. But you know, those claims were a significant number in dollar amounts, and you can see as the trend, you know, the ideal trend is a trend down from year to year, and claim, by cause and cost. Unfortunately, they're trending in the wrong direction, which is upwards. So this, we went from here and we said, well, why are they having these injuries? Where are they at? So we were able to categorize. On the next chart here, we categorize the losses by strains or sprains, patient handling, transfer of employee or patients. What this does for us is this allows us to look at the big causes of injuries in a facility and see where we need to immediately direct our safety attention. So for this community we're working with, the big ones for them were the employee transfer and transport, transporting employees to the toilet and bed, and your slips, trips, and falls. So from here, we need to implement some procedures to combat these injuries. What we did is we implemented a safe patient handling program. This is a best practice policy, and this policy sets the standards for the employees and sets goals for the community. We also, to work with the transfers, we implemented a gate belt policy. And also, for the slips, trips, and falls, we partner with a company called Shoes for Crews. Shoes for Crews, they provide slip-resistant safety shoes. We work with them because they stand behind their product. They'll actually cover the first $5,000 of a claim. So these are all procedures that we implemented into this community. The results are, at this time last year, they had 6 injuries. And currently, and knock on wood, they're at 1 injury right now. So because of looking at their losses, figuring out where we need to implement the procedures and actually doing the implementation of them, we've drastically reduced their claims.
Excellent. So it's obvious that it's critical that you've got to dig deep in the first step to know your loss history. And for you two gentlemen, you spend a lot of time with your assisted living communities doing exactly that, by doing this kind of analysis. Correct?
Right. Yeah, and Dave's about to talk about, about how we work with them, and we actually go on site and see where we need to, what we need to look at and where we need to implement procedures.
So really, step one, some of that could just be done over just files and history. Now we need to get on site with step 2, and that is to uncover workplace hazards. Dave, walk us through what we need to be focusing on in uncovering workplace hazards.
Now, after we categorize our losses, Jim, and really when we do that, that just gives us a roadmap and tells us what direction we want to go in. Now we have to find out where the hazards are in the workplace. And one way we do that, we inspect what we expect. That's kind of a short saying by Zig Ziglar. And we look at the safety. We do that by doing safety inspections, or if you like, surveys, using checklists. Checklists just kind of focus in on what we want to look at and make certain that we are doing what we need to do. Another method that we use is job assessment. And in this, we look at specific high loss potential jobs, and we observe the employee doing that job. We discuss with the employee the activities associated with the job, and then we, of course, ID the problem. Once the problem has been identified, then we come up with solutions. So that's how we inspect what we expect at a location. The second part of the uncovering workplace hazards, we find out where they're occurring. And we do that, of course, through the data, Jim. You mentioned the fact that we look at some of the past records, and we look at the departments that the accidents are happening, what shifts they're occurring on, and the areas at the facility where they're occurring. And then we come to the very final step in this process, in which we have to fix them. And how do we fix these losses? Well, the first way is that we make physical changes, and some of you may be familiar with the term engineering changes. All that means is that if you have a machine, you add a guard to it. Or if you have a poor layout at the facility, you change the layout. An example at the ALF where we did this study, they had an accident involving the cleaning chemicals. Well, a physical change here, we actually changed the way that they actually dispensed the chemicals and eliminated hazard to the employees. The second part of fixing this problem, we look at procedural changes. And these are all they are is administrative changes, and we change the way the job is actually done. So that's how we kind of work in this particular area. We design, excuse me, we design activities to improve performance. That's our entire goal.
Excellent. Well, now, there's one particular type of analysis you do that really is very powerful. And Dave, that's called a job hazard analysis, JHA. Tell us what that's all about.
This is a very effective tool for ALFs. The two key components of this is we identify the hazards before they produce an accident, and we look at the relationship between the workers, the tasks that they perform, and the tools that they use in the work environment. Let me just expound a little bit on this identifying the hazards. What we look at a JHA, we break the job down into steps or tasks that the employee has to perform. Then we identify the hazards that's associated with each job step, and then we apply measures to protect the worker from injury. And when that is all done, then we eliminate the hazard and we control the event. So that's basically in a nutshell what a job hazard analysis is.
Well, the obvious question that follows up after that is what kinds of jobs need a JHA?
Well, you want to look at the high frequency, high loss jobs. That's the very ones. The ones that are causing you the losses. If you look back on our accident analysis that we showed you, in this example where we categorize losses, the biggest one was in employee transport. So when we look at these high-risk jobs, they're the ones that we focus on to try to control the losses associated with them. And then we look at the high potentials. If there's a job that's going to produce injury, we want to do something about that before the injury actually occurs. And where you have a human event or human error that can end up in a serious accident, we want to look at those kinds of jobs. And of course, if we do something new that the employees are not used to, if we bring some kind of new operation in, then we should do a JHA before they actually have a loss on that job. And you can see the rest of them, number 5 and number 6. Anytime you have a job change, we really should be doing a job hazard analysis. And if you got a job that's got very complex instruction, that's also a candidate for this process.
So just about almost any job we might have at one time or another may need to go through a JHA, depending on the priorities. Is that how you gentlemen look at it?
Exactly.
Well, let's give some examples of what we should be looking at or what our audience should be looking at in terms of slip, trips, and falls. You've got some information on that, Justin. It's pretty important.
Yeah, so say, one of the leading causes of injuries in an assisted living facility is a slip, trip, and fall. So as you can see on this slide here, in the bottom right, there's a picture of a water on the floor. So when we're doing a hazard analysis, you want to look at a couple things. What is the hazard? Where does the hazard exist? And how do you prevent the hazard from existing? So in this example, you look at what is the hazard. Well, the hazard is a contaminant on the floor, whether that be water, oil, grease, etc. And then you want to look at, well, where does the hazard exist? This hazard can exist in food service areas, bathrooms, underneath soap dispensers, soap dripping on the floor, around drinking fountains, and even the entrances to buildings, people walking in and it's been raining outside. So that's where the hazard exists, and then you want to determine how you prevent the hazard from existing in the future. Things like slip-resistant safety shoes, as an example, walk mats. You can put these in kitchens, bathrooms, or even at the entrances of your facility, and even drip pans underneath ice machines. So this is just a quick example of how to kind of analyze the situation and determine how you can prevent an injury like that from happening in the future.
Listening to you guys so far on our webinar brings me to a question or a comment I'd love for you to just jump in on and give me your opinion. What you've talked about so far really is a professional new set of eyes. It seems to me we could be walking through our communities and we're not even recognizing this because we just see it every day. We don't know what we're missing. Is that a fair assessment that this fresh set of eyes is just really what you two bring to the plate as well, or any safety professional?
It certainly is, Jim. And it's one of the things that even when we do it, if we bring, say, someone from the insurance company, that particular person looking at it for the first time is going to see things that we have missed as we go through. So it's always great to have a new pair of eyes on a hazard at a work site.
Excellent. Well, let's go on to the third step. We've looked at knowing your loss history and how important that is, uncovering workplace hazards, and now let's look at the third step in your gentleman's process, and that is developing a safety program. Justin, walk us through what you guys do, and also what you suggest to our listeners what they should do to develop a good safety program.
So the first part of developing a safety program is you want to clarify your core policies. These policies can be policies such as your overall safety policy for the organization. It could be a gate belt policy, or even a safe resident handling policy. And like I mentioned before, that's where we were at, just a few short weeks ago with the company that we're currently working with, is getting these policies created and then implemented into the facility. Then you also want to customize the safety program by location. If your facility has several locations, a lot of the times the hazards will be some of the same ones from facility to facility, but you still want to look at each facility and customize that by location, because there are other hazards that can exist from facility to facility. And then you want to assign accountability. So who's going to be responsible for implementing these procedures or conducting weekly or monthly safety talks? Different departments assign different responsibilities to different people, such as your maintenance department. They provide the safety information for their employees, and CNAs will do it for a different group. So you want to look at who's going to be responsible by department, and then you also want to develop budgets. And when I talk about developing budgets, we're going to look at implementing a proactive safety program compared to injury cost. A lot of times people will say, well, we just don't have the money to invest in safety right up front. We don't have the money to hire somebody new or to buy personal protective equipment. Well, we want to kind of compare the two and let you see how you're going to come off from a dollar perspective. You're going to come off on top by investing in a safety program.
Can I ask you something before we jump into the proactive safety program and its ROI, its return on investment? I'd like to camp out just for a second on this assigned accountability, because now you're developing a safety program, you're assigning accountability. To me, that appears to be an absolutely critical step to building a safety culture, that you've got to have people consistently reminding of what the policies are and raising the standards of the employees to meet that. Is that a correct statement?
It is, Jim. I think so. One of the things that we're going to cover as we get a little deeper into the program here, you must assign responsibility, but along with the responsibility, the employee must have the authority and hold accountable personnel for implementing the plan. So if we assign accountability, the bottom line is they must have the authority to get the job done.
And you're going to share us in a minute how to do that.
Yes.
Thank you. Great. That's an important point. So Justin, walk us through then, please, how you recommend our listeners develop a proactive safety program and the return on it.
Yeah, so when you're developing a safety program, you're gonna do the items that we've currently previously talked about. But the first part is you want to have somebody responsible, whether that's a safety manager, a safety specialist, or you just have somebody in your facility that's responsible for the safety issues and topics. You also want to implement the safety policies, and these policies set goals for the company and set the standards for all employees to go by. And you also want to have a safety manual, and the safety manual includes the programs, what personal protective equipment is required from job task to job task. It includes your, say you have a blood spill, it includes your bloodborne pathogen program and policy, and your HAZCOM for chemicals. So, you know, when we're talking about investing and creating a budget for safety, these are the items that we're talking about. Now, you compare this dollar amount, what you would invest in that, compared to the actual cost of an injury. You know, a lot of times people just think, all they think of are the direct cost of an injury. Well, you know, there's direct and indirect, and as you can see here, we'll go through them, but the direct cost of an injury are the ones you always think about, the workers' compensation payments, the emergency room visits, doctor visits, and, you know, say the injured worker needs to go to rehab. Those are the items that you typically only think about. Well, it goes in, you know, a lot further than that. You have your indirect costs, such as the raises in insurance costs, administrative costs, unwanted media attention, and, you know, that can be devastating to an organization.
For any kind of service organization.
You know, say that you know, some equipment or property was damaged due to the injury. And it also lowers employee morale and absenteeism. So when you look at this as a whole, you know, investing in a safety program is a lot less expensive than the cost, you know, of having an injury.
And in fact, you estimate it's up to 4 times.
Yeah, you know, your indirect cost can be up to 4 times the amount of a direct cost. So
When you first taught me that, I was amazed at how that difference. I mean, 4 times.
Well, in certain industries, Jim, it's even higher than that. If you're looking at special industries like chemical and those kind of industries, it can be well up 15 times. So it's critical in those situations.
So our listeners need to understand there's direct and indirect, and they need to also calculate the indirect cost.
Absolutely.
Because that adds to the profit to employee safety unbelievably, does it not? Now, Dave, you've got a tool that we want to share with our listeners, a tool that's a really cool, I like to call it a cool tool. It's Dave's cool tool. Tell us about this injury calculator, Dave.
Well, one of the things when I'm talking to management about developing budgets for safety, one of the guidelines that we give them is that they should always fight for what they believe in. Never give up, no matter what. You should always fight for your safety budget. Now, here we have a very interesting tool that you can use. It's on our website. It was developed by OSHA. And as Justin already outlined, the direct costs we know about because we get a loss run from the insurance carrier. The indirect costs, not so many people know about that, and they don't even think about it. But in the example that we have here on our slide today is it's a strain injury. The direct cost you can see is around $35,319, and the indirect cost is a little bit more than that. Now, when OSHA developed their website, they found that a claim that's over $10,000, you usually have pretty close, a little more than a one-to-one indirect cost to direct cost. But even so, when we look at the total cost of a claim, both indirect to direct, at a 3% margin, you can see how much it takes in order to pay for that one claim.
That's just unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
I mean, it really is. It's unbelievable.
And management and others who are working with budgets, when they're trying to sell their program, this is an excellent tool to really demonstrate what your costs are and to demonstrate to management why it's important.
And this tool is available on the paydayhr.com website. Anybody out there can come to paydayhr.com. This injury calculator is there. You can run your own injury calculations and what the sales to cover total cost could be. And once again, this is developed by OSHA. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, this is an OSHA calculator. That's terrific. Okay, thank you. Well, now let's go on to step 4. And step 4 of a total employee safety program would be now we're ready to roll out the safety program. And Dave, a minute ago you mentioned this is where the accountability comes into play. And give us a little more detail on how our listeners should begin to roll out their safety programs after, of course, completing the first 3 steps.
Justin already gave us what should be included, and now we want everybody to know about our plan. So the first thing we like to see you do is designate a safety person at the facility. Now, this person should be someone who can relate to the employees as well as to management. And you should make certain that the safety plan is carried out. That's his primary responsibility, make sure that plan is carried out. And what we do here at Payday, we actually provide training for this person in order to make them feel competent in doing this particular job. And our safety officer program is one that we think is important to our clients. So we roll it out and we present it by starting off with a safety officer. The next part of the rollout we do is meetings with the employees. And this could be a series of meetings or safety talks with the employees. And the main point here is that we want them to know about our plan and to everyone to know what their expectations are and what the plan is telling them to do. After we do that, Jim, we need to monitor the progress. We should set up, proper measures. Now, a lot of companies, a lot of communities will use incident rates or the number of accidents. This should never be used as your monitoring tool.
Why is that?
Well, you need to actually design activities to improve the safety performance. And if you do that, you need to measure those activities. And when we measure those activities, I'm talking about things like safety talks, safety contacts with the employees, safety inspections that are made in departments, coaching sessions, those kinds of things. You can measure those, and it's great for monitoring the progress of your program.
Excellent.
Now, we've already talked a little bit about employee accountability. The most important point is that we give responsibility, but we have to give that responsibility with authority. And then we hold accountable the personnel for implementing the plan that we've already outlined. And the last part of our rollout process it improves the education and training, and it never ends. So we continue our training, and we have safety and health training is provided to minimize and also eliminate unsafe behaviors while the employees are working on the job. That's the core reason why we do training and do it on a continuing basis.
Well, Dave, I know at Payday, we have a special incentive that really aligns with the rollout of the safety program on the workers' comp rates. Is that right?
That's correct. Now, that goes back to our safety officer program that we were just talking about a little earlier. In that program, we actually do give our clients a 5% discount. If they appoint someone, that person goes through the training, then we actually give them a 5% discount on their workers' compensation rates. So we think that's a powerful incentive for most of our employees to do, to implement safety in the culture and to reduce the losses at their facility.
I think that was that's a great incentive. I mean, that you talk about profiting through employee safety, there's a great example right there. Just
Exactly.
keeping the money in your pocket.
Exactly.
Now, if we went through the first 4 steps, if that's really all we did, if we just knew our loss history, uncovered the workplace hazards, developed a safety program, and rolled it out, that's really not enough. There's one more, and so many of us forget about this,
Right.
and it really is kind of the glue that keeps everything together. That's the 5th step, Dave.
We need to design a reward program. The old saying, catch people doing it right, and when you catch them doing it right, Jim, you should really praise them for it. You should really express appreciation. And I'm talking about just saying thanks for doing the things that you are supposed to do.
It can be just as simple as a thank you.
It can be as simple as a thank you. Exactly. And then we want to, anytime we see somebody doing something right, we want to reinforce that safety behavior. And then, of course, we come to the next one, which is awards and recognition. Something as simple as certificates for accomplishments, for, doing the safety program, doing what they're supposed to do, but we give them a certificate for that. Let me give you an example, Jim, of a recognition program that was done by the one, in this case study that we showed earlier, the reason I had to get it exalted. They have something that called a stand-up meeting there at CRL. And during these stand-up meetings, they talk about little issues from the previous shift, but they also recognize employees for doing things correct, doing things right. And so when we do that, it brings in the employees to be a part of the whole cultural experience of reducing accidents at the facility.
And really what you've set as a framework here, gentlemen, is that you're setting a framework for a safety culture.
Absolutely.
For initiating and continuing a safety culture. That's really what this is about.
This is what it's about. We want it to be, and I kind of define culture is the way we do things around here. And now there are some other steps you can look at into culture, but we want all the employees involved in becoming the intricate part of the whole safety plan that we've established.
Well, gentlemen, I appreciate you going over these 5 steps. And now I want to offer to our listeners that special offer we mentioned at the opening. What Dave and Justin have put together is 2 special offerings that we would like all of you, please, we would love all of you to do this, to accept this as our gift. First, after the webinar, you will be emailed from our hosts, our sponsors, an email that will give you the links and the ability to respond to get these 2 free gifts. Number 1, a safety plan template. This safety plan template is exactly what we use at Payday to begin this process of transitioning toward a safety culture. It gives you some of the critical steps that you need to perform, and it's our free gift for you. But secondly, this is really a sweet offer. You will receive a second bonus, which is 6 questions you must answer to maximize profits through employee safety. These are 6 critically important questions that go above and beyond what we presented to you in this webinar. And when you answer those questions, when you come up with your draft responses, what Justin and Dave have offered to all of you is this. They would be very willing to schedule a 30-minute complimentary safety analysis from your 6 questions and offer their wisdom and insight as to what your next steps should be to develop your safety culture. So we encourage you, when you receive the email after the webinar today, that you take us up on that offer, and just for your email address, we can send you that information. So now with that, Renee, we're going to kick it back to you, and I'm going to let you ask any questions that you might have. Renee?
Thanks, Jim, very much. We do have a couple questions for you, and I appreciate the people that sent their questions, and also when you let us know you were having a little bit of audio that we could fix that, so thank you. Jim, how could I measure my ALF safety against national standards?
How can we do that?
Well, the best approach that we should take is use the OSHA standard. They've got a formula that's available. What we do is we take the total number of cases that we have at a facility, multiply it times 200,000, and divide it by the total work hours at the facility. Now, when we do that, we'll come up with what is called an incident rate. Now, OSHA publishes incident rates over on all of the nearly all of the employees throughout the U.S. And then you can kind of see where you stand. The first, of course, is you should compare that rate with yourself year over year. And then after you do that, if you're making progress, then you want to see how you're doing against the healthcare industry. And you can find those on OSHA's website and see how you stack up with the healthcare industry and also with general industry as a whole.
Thanks, Dave. Andrew, got any more questions?
Yes, I have another question. How would you determine or choose your safety officer for your organization or community?
Justin, how should we do that?
Well, you want to pick somebody that's been with the company for a while. You don't want somebody that's fresh in there to drop them in that role, but somebody that's loyal to the company and shows that they can take on an added responsibility and be a competent safety person. So, and like Dave mentioned, you find the people and we here, we have a program we can send them through to give them the skills needed to be a confident safety person. So somebody that's been with with the company for a while and just going to be loyal and is going to stick around for a while.
Justin, why don't you tell them about the part that we start with in the training, just the general. It's core skills, right?
Yeah, the core skills, we it's just basic safety information as far as accident reporting and how to conduct safety trainings. So those basic core skills, and then what we do for the healthcare industry is we have the industry specific training, such as patient handling and items like that. So that's what we would put the selected safety officer through.
Great. Thank you very much. At this point, I don't have any other questions. If you guys want to wrap up, and I appreciate so much everything you gave everyone, plus all the opt-ins that will be on the landing page that people can download. It will be super.
Excellent. Renee, thank you so much for letting us be a part of this. We hope the listeners learned how to create a safety culture, and we look forward to doing another one with you very soon.
That is great. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise, and I hope that you get a lot of feedback from everything that you presented to the group that was listening today.
Thank you very much.
Have a good afternoon, everyone.
You too, Renee.
Thanks, Renee.
Thank you.